Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Anderson, one of the Lavinia Stamps creative team, and this is part 2 of making the little pocket. I'll need to come up with a name for it, but the little pocket with the tea bag influenced. And in part 1 we made the pocket itself using a die, and that can stand alone. You can do that and use it just as it is, just as a lovely little pocket for putting notes in, whatever. But I was inspired by what I call fancy tea bags because they come in their own little packets. So as you'll know, you'll get a little tea bag inside with this little tag on the end. I love this. I've done other things before inspired by tea bags, and I'm sure I'll do more with this set of stamps. But so inside I've made a little tag and added a little tag on the end like a tea bag. I used the acorns. One, I absolutely love anything to do with acorns and oak leaf imagery, and one of my favourite stamps is this oak leaf stamp, and I've used this before on projects. I just love it. And I reckoned that even though this is very green, it makes a really nice contrast with the oranges and the browns, and why not remember that in the autumn that this is how this little teapot sat underneath an oak tree. So that's my thinking. So I'm using multifarious card. I'm using the B7, and I have cut it so that this card is 5 centimetres by 7 centimetres, and it so happens that if you do that, showing you like a jigsaw, you'll end up with this little piece off the top, and that's what I used for this. So I could have done that and trimmed it down, but I'm going to do it in 2 separate pieces and go from there. So this is burnt orange dinkles, and all I'm going to do is sprinkle them onto the piece of card. I'm going to do it on here just so it's less messy. So it's not going through a stencil or anything. I'm literally just sprinkling it on, and then I'm going to give it a spritz. I really love the speckled effect you get with this, as opposed to having a wet piece and then sprinkling it on and it darts everywhere. There we go. That's my card coloured. Then we need to grab some acorns. I'm going to stamp them in pine cone. Going to add a bigger one. You get 2 in your set. Add the bigger one to one side. Pop the little one. Oops. Inking my block with my ink pad, which I find I do a lot, as you can see. It's one of the ways I get smudges on my work. But hey ho. So let's make this sit so it's kind of almost touching, lying next to it. There we go. And then we'll add some oak leaves around the top. Now you can angle these however you like. I'm going to pop them this way this time because I've got less colour there. And so it just gives a bit more interest. And let's have a bit of the branch coming down there, shall we? Maybe another one. Overlapping. Should even have a bit of the end of that leaf coming in over the top of that little acorn. be different every time you do it, really, won't it? And then we can colour them in. I've got some browns and oranges and yellows. So the browns are 31 and 32, yellows are 4 and 5. So let's start off colouring the acorn. So I'm just doing it really lightly all over to get that lighter brown colour, and then I can start going in a bit heavier to add a bit of depth. And then we can add some colour to some of these leaves. I'm going to do a mixture of oranges and browns on here, because that's how they come out, don't they? There we go. Add a bit of the darker brown on here. Just to add a bit more depth to that acorn. Just going to add a bit of that darker brown there. And the amount of colour that you'll need on these acorns will vary really according to how much colour you've got underneath. This one, it's got a lot more, as you can see in the background. This one's a bit lighter. I love how that orange comes through though. Right, let's add a bit of colour to these acorn leaves. It's a bit of a brighter orange than I was expecting. What we can do is, I'll colour these, is we can go over the top with the brown, and that will just mute it down a bit. I'm just going to add a bit of that yellow when I've got it in my hand to the most prominent bit. If it's a rounded acorn, this top bit where it would be catching the light, maybe a bit more. So using the yellow a bit like you might a Posca. So there we go. Let's get that. Let's go with which brown should I go with? So I'm just working that over the top of that orange, which will just knock it back a bit and blend it a bit better with the brown of the rest of the oak leaf. Going to add a bit of text again, just to add a bit of variety in that background, especially since it's a bit lighter. And I'm also going to do that on here. Now let's just, I kind of wanted it square. When I folded this, it wasn't happy. So I'm doing 2 pieces. Plus it was easier almost to put the string in. So add a bit of text to that as well. And I'm going to get my stencil brush out, and my brown one. Sorry, knocking you over there. I'm not sure I had a brown one. I think I kind of did brown in. Orange to together. Anyway, I'm using my brown stencil brush. Mainly because I think they look pretty. How bad's that? I've made my collection over time. I started off with just one brush I did use to clean it, and but I really like the fact that if I'm using a yellow, I get my yellow brush out. It's a much cleaner colour, and also you'll have seen Joe's and everybody's. They look pretty. So there we go, going around the edges, maybe adding a bit of colour in the middle there. A bit dark around here. I just add a quick spritz of water on there. Can't resist it today. Adds a bit more texture. And then we just need to do these tags. So again, going over with your brown or your darker colour. Quick spritz on those. That was a very quick spritz. And you know what? There is a leaf. Let me just have a look what it's called. Excuse my paper rustling. I'll find out. There's red oak leaf and white oak leaf set. White oak leaf is what I'm going to use. I'm just thinking it might be quite nice to have the edge of one on there. This is the biggest of the lot. I might even be tempted to put them on that card, just as a bit of a contrast really to, oh look at that, to those delicate ones we've got there. Shall we overlay it? Let's be brave. Oh, that's not the ink pad I was intending on using. I want the VersaFine. You can stamp with your elements, though. It's just a bit squidgier. Oh, look at that. I don't know about you, but as I find I play more, I try different things. And when I was originally making this, I'd looked at these and thought, no, I'm going to use those more open leaves from the oak leaf set. But actually, I'm enjoying the contrast. Shall we pop some on the floor? And the layering aspect that we get with these more solid ones. So because I've done that, I'm going to ground these. I didn't ground these acorns on this one because I quite liked it just on there. Because those leaves are there, I'm just going to pop a little bit of colour. Again, didn't mean to pick up that from my VersaFine, but in the same way that you can stamp with your elements, you can actually add a bit of colour from your brush with your VersaFine. Let's colour in there a bit. Of course, you can always add shadow with your pencil, as you can see. So there we go. Right, so we need a bit of string. I'm using the hemp, all sorts of colours you can get, but there's a bit. You use what you have. I'm going to use the middle size hole punch. When you buy the set of 3, there's that's like normal hole punch size. This is tiny, this is in the middle. I'm just going to eyeball it, but you can measure it if you need to or want to. Just going to go there. And let's tie on. This was just a loose bit. I've got no idea whether it's long enough, we'll see. So just tying a knot in this end. And then this end, we're going to add this little tag. Do it this way around. And what I'm going to do is staple that together. And I don't know whether you can, it's a bit tricky to see in a minute. I'm making a cross basically with the staple. You could do a single staple. I just really like that effect of making a cross with the staples. So that's on that side. I'm going to pop a little bit of paper over here because they're going to catch your fingers and I don't want that to happen. So on here I've just made a little tiny piece of collage, which is another thing I like to do. So I'm just going to tear off some of my under paper. And we're going to just push those staples down. I'm going to pop it this way because we've got that nice leaf there. So, and there's my brown brush. Let's give it a bit of colour just so it's not stark white. Bits of stamping. If there's any ink on, yes, there is. So let's go in there. Trim that off. Add a little bit of, I suppose we could use that piece. No, I'll just get a bit of the this pine cone again. If that wasn't all in the middle, I'd just trim it off there, but just for ease of showing you an acorn coming with me. I'm just going to trim off part of this word. You're not going to be able to read it. The idea is just a hint of writing. I mean, could be in fairy language, couldn't it? So we wouldn't know what it said. But anyway, and all we need to do now is add a couple of words. Let's see what we've got left on the stickers. I think I'm going to go with unwind. And I'm just going to trim that down. So let's go with unwind on the tag. And I think there's something about a quiet place. Or it's about rest and relaxation. But I'm just going to do rest. Put the other one back on there. And actually, if you wanted to, just looking for my gold link of Stella, I'll have some of that round. If you wanted to, with these little bags, you could actually put a tea bag inside, couldn't you? So I'm just going to go around with my gold wink of Stella, pop some on unwind, and I'm just going to get my brown brush to just go around the edges a bit on here. I rather like the fact that it's white underneath. I'm just joining it together a little bit by doing the ends. And there we go. So there's our tag for inside our little pocket. Into that one, and that just sticks out, and pop silence back in there. That would nice to sit that way for some reason. There we go. Hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to see a little tag with a little tag, so please let me know.